Legion by Lenovo.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Week 3 of the Chisholm Invitational. My name is Max von Neumann, also known as Formal Casting. Joining me once again is Hedgie, as we bring you that mid-season meltdown, or perhaps it's the mid-season, maximization of all possible opportunities, because as we move into Week 3 right here, all of these teams should have been able to dust off those cobwebs, should have been able to figure out those synergies, and now should be getting those grooves, those identities, those skills that they need to push themselves into a playoff position. It's going to be a fun one for sure this week, as we have two returning teams who have been with the Chisholm Invitational since the very start. It's going to be St. Thomas More Smurfs taking on McCauley Fire. And Hedgie, I know you're eager to get into this one. Tell me, what are your thoughts of this matchup just on that base value?
Yeah. Well, they're obviously both 1-1 in Pool A, so a win for either team will make or break their season, really. And if you lose this game, you're in a bit of trouble in respect to the whole circuit. So yeah, definitely a big match of both teams, and yeah, a win is needed really to propel them into potential finals spot.
Yeah, and let's take a bigger look at the larger picture to really illustrate what we're talking about right here with these playoffs around the corner, starting, of course, with Pool C and Pool D. Now, these are not the teams that we're going to be seeing today, but as you can see, at least in Pool D side, it's turning into a three-horse race between the Cyber Sharks, ICU, and TC Red. Meanwhile, over at Pool C, Free Jungle and SDC Gold got off to those hard starts, each sitting 2-0 at the moment, with Team 1 and LE Squadra kind of nipping at their heels, looking to get themselves back into a solid winning record as they move to the latter half of the season. Though, moving along into Pool B, we can also take a look at the situation here where the Lakers Legends, as well as the Echidnas, each are sitting 2-0, looking to hold off Amdrian United and Alt F4 back. And in the pool we are covering today, the Maroons and UIF at AO, each 2-0, each undefeated, which means that both the Smurfs and McCauley Fire, the two teams on stream today, are looking to chase them down to get into that top two to secure that playoff spot. And losing a game here could mean the end of any playoff aspirations, but a win puts you right in the middle of that hunt.
Absolutely. So yeah, really important to get a win today, and yeah, put yourself at 2-1, and yeah, give yourself a chance to make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what these players are going to be looking forward to. And speaking of players, I think it's high time we take a look at who exactly is going to be on the Rift today, starting with the St. Thomas More Smurfs. They've got Forlit OC in the top lane, Ginger Ninja in the mid lane, Flint Boy in bot, Frosty Bird in jungle, Deadly Cheetah on support. And what's interesting about these teams, there's a couple players I actually want to highlight on this one. The first, those stats coming from Ginger Ninja, I'm sure, are going to be, drawing some eyes. Nearly 18 kills per game, only 3 deaths, 5 assists roughly. If they look too good to be true, that's a little bit because they are.
Yeah, he may have been playing with some,
Bot
not
games.
saying this is an insult, but subhuman players, all right, in bots. So maybe a bit inflated there. But yeah, nevertheless, 18 kills a game. I wish I could do that. Pretty sick. Maybe I should just be playing against bots every game.
If you can take those numbers and carry it over into the ranked ladder, you will go so far in this game. However, just based on sort of the research we did, Ginger Ninja actually might be the least experienced member on the team. So if we're going to be looking for St. Thomas More, where their carry is going to come from, my eyes are drawn towards the jungle. Frosty Bird has the most competitive experience. Pretty solid KDA, a lot of deaths, but also a high kill participation, and looks to be getting involved. In fact, more kills than assists coming from the jungler tells me that this is a jungler that wants to invade and wants to gank and wants to make plays. So if we're going to see St. Thomas More kind of overcoming this game, I feel like it's going to have to be played around her.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, when you're playing certain junglers as well, it doesn't really matter if you die as long as you're setting up plays for your team. So yeah, the high death typically, may not look very good on your KDA at the end of the game, may not win MVP and OP.GG, excuse me, but you're still doing a lot for your team, and maybe setting up the win for your team.
Absolutely, but it is their opponents who I'd have to say are going to be the favorites in this matchup this afternoon. McCauley Fire coming in with a pretty hot lineup. Haha, see what we did there. But now let's go through these players. You have McCammy Teko in the top lane, Swiper 18 in mid, Turbo Slayer 18 in bot, Psychic Eric Sorry for pronouncing that one wrong, in jungle. And of course, Pumpkin Time, appealing to the cooking that's been going on in at least in this household in recent times on support. And the thing about this team is, while yes, those stats might be looking, on par with the St. Thomas More Smurfs, what they have over their opponents is going to be experience. And I think we're going to be seeing that experience predominantly in the early game laning phases of this match.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Gordon Ramsay would be very happy with the Pumpkin and the time KDA there, but we'll step past that. Definitely also got a solid jungle KDA, getting a lot of kills and assists every game, pretty high counts there, and yeah, just across the board looking pretty solid. Definitely top lane, getting a lot of solo kills as well, so maybe playing some of those carry champions, maybe see a Fiora, maybe see a Riven or something, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, what's interesting about this matchup is the fact that both of the junglers are realistically the kill leaders on each of these teams. So this jungle matchup is going to be a fun one to watch for sure. And if you look across the board outside the top lane, relatively high deaths as well. So this could be a very action-packed match as we are getting ready, set to go. I do imagine we should be jumping to Champion Select just around that corner. And considering that we've taken a look at these two teams, Hedgie, I'm just going to go straight to you. What sort of champions should we be expecting to see?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, you're talking about aggression. So again, I guess we talked about this last week as well. But yeah, just an aggressive champion. So Xin Zhao comes to mind instantly when I think of that. Did actually receive a bit of a nerf this patch, but it shouldn't be too bad. And yeah, just a lot of those early game picks, maybe like a Sylas or maybe a Zed or an Assassin, the AP or AD variety of playing for these players, sorry. And yeah, so it should be pretty exciting. Hopefully some more early game aggression and trying to get that priority in your lanes.
Well, hopefully they will be able to establish that priority and act upon it as our first ban does come through. It will be a Tryndamere. Not too surprising to see the top lane being focused and one of those consistent sort of laning and split pushing threats. Fiddlesticks will be banned out in response, already targeting that jungle on the blue side as we kind of expected. St. Thomas More, I really want to emphasize how much pressure might be on Frosty Bird to perform, not just in this game, but I just kind of feel like the way how this team has been set up, I do expect her to be like the main focal point and the main voice of this team. So to see her getting the blunt of these initial bans early, not too much of a surprise. Meanwhile, the response, it is Maiteko who is being targeted a fair bit. Two top lane bans to try and to try and possibly protect Ginger Ninja, who is currently sitting in the top position. They could be a flex up top, and yeah, they could be just trying to protect perhaps, their least experienced player. Yeah,
we're actually seeing a little bit of a genius outplay from St. Thomas there. They've got Frosty Bird, so they ban Anivia, but she's in the jungle. She's not going to be playing Anivia. What are they doing? They've absolutely just...
Are you suggesting that jungle Anivia is no longer competitively viable?
I'm gonna put my foot down for what it is. It's not competitively viable, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Next one's Caston, but
not sure I accept that apology. I had big plans for the jungle Anivia in the future, and for those of you who, if our references are going over your head, jungle Anivia is known as one of the slowest scaling mid laners in the game, who is quite vulnerable early, and if you throw her in the jungle, not only will she be ineffective, she will be ineffective for roughly 20-25 minutes. So yeah, absolutely. Do not put Anivia in the jungle. Instead, pick yourselves up a Garen for the Ginger Ninja, a nice, safe pick for the learning player. This makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, pretty good as well. And Set does go along with that as well. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Is good in the early game, and when you have a bit of gank set up at Evelyn as well, just really easy follow up, and it's a pretty easy gank, particularly into a Garen with low mobility, but they're actually having the Diana going to pick that up straight away. Very quick lock-ins, very confident on both parts. But yeah, going to pick that one up, and very strong with two AD solo laners. So if you're picking an AD jungler, you might typically look to get at least one AP solo laner, or you can have double AP solo laners. But then if you have an AP jungler, you're looking to get AD solo laners on both ends, so that whenever you gank, you have AD and AP damage, and it's hard to itemize against it, and you do a lot more damage because of it than that here, which is really powerful. Diana going a very strong combo, and Garen as well with the Diana. If they do get the set up onto the set, mind you, it should be pretty good. But I like to actually not go that alternative when you go the AP and the AD on the other side. So you have to pick up the Annie alongside that Eve. But another simple champion, so it does make a lot of sense in this context.
It's interesting though to me because like outside of Astro Clown on the Yone, so far this Picks and Bans is going similar to a way I kind of first seen it going, where there's going to be a lot of earnest on these junglers to sort of make plays and play the map. Diana is known as one of the better gankers and does a lot of damage both in ganks and in team fights, so always a threat. And then on the other end you have Evelyn, who has that invisibility, has that surprise and then ensuing burst factor that can catch out any player on the St. Thomas More side who might misstep. So both of these teams definitely playing around those jungles so far with these picks. I like both of the jungle mid synergies. Should we start to see them roaming around? I mean, and again, the simplicity as well in terms of ease to execute, more specifically on the fire side, I am a big fan of. I'm always going to be a fan of the easy to execute team compositions when it comes to these sort of matches. So the fire, it really feels like even a little bit more so than the Smurfs are playing to their strengths right now. And now we're getting into a bit more technical. If we see the Samira gets locked in, that might change things a bit, although it still kind of plays into this area of effect team fight that they can unleash.
Yeah, and you probably, if you're Evelyn now, you're seeing that Samira, if they'd go for a Nautilus or some sort of engaged bot lane, are probably going to target that lane now, just considering how strong Samira is when she does get ahead. She's just so damaging. I'm going to pick up the Tristana, and again, really good in terms of just being simple, being able to provide damage really easily, having lots of escapes there. Just going to pick up Nautilus there as well, as I said, and yeah, Soraka as well. Really good healing, and that's an insurance policy here. If they do get to that late game, Soraka's just going to be tearing it up, right? So he's a very strong pick here. But I mean, it's up to Eve a lot in this game to actually find the Soraka or find these key targets like the Tristana as well and execute them. Because if she doesn't, it will be annoying to play out these team fights with the amount of healing, with the amount of damage they have over time. But yeah, pretty simple. A lot of CC on the side for Fire. They have a lot of early game pressure. They can try to push in waves. They can try to get around these dragons. If Nautilus is roaming, he's going to be really powerful with that Evelyn. So definitely going to look for... Yeah, Annie as well. So definitely going to look for some early pressure, a lot of CC, a lot of availability for these plays.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the Fire team, I actually really enjoy it. The only pick that I would argue is not necessarily a top tier competitive meta pick at this stage would be the Annie, but that's just because there's other champions that do what she does with a little bit more range. And so I'm not knocking the pick in stylistically, but because those other champions are also harder to execute. And the big one that I like to compare Annie to is Syndra in this situation, because you have sort of that zone pressure, the crowd control stun that can hit multiple targets, and that burst potential depending on how you want to build it. So in this situation, I probably would have liked the Syndra better, but Syndra is also much harder to execute and is a much more difficult lane, especially against a Yone, where the Annie will match up quite well. So this isn't a knock on that pick at all. And it still will play that similar role of zoning, lockdown, and single target burst damage, perhaps maybe even multiple if you get a bit lucky with sort of that Tibbers setup. I really like what Fire's put together, and I'm curious if they're going to play this game in a similar manner that you see in a high elo game, because if they are able to pick a team comp like this and then execute it the way we see the pros do it, this could be a very scary looking team.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a really good comparison. Two very similar champions and what they want to do, but just a bit different in terms of the skill aspect, in terms of how you're executing them, and that sort of angle. And obviously, like objectively, Syndra would be the better champion, but you might get more value out of the Annie with the more simple kit that she has. So yeah, definitely a strong picture, and they do have a lot of that CC and a lot of that early pressure. Probably going to be looking for a lot of those plays. Yeah, and on the other side though, you do have a lot of scaling. You have a lot of options in team fights as well. If this Diana does get a good engage off to multiple squishy targets, which she does have in the Annie, Samira, and Evelyn, should have a pretty good time, and they have a lot of damage to back that up with the Yone, the Tristana, and the Garen. So should be pretty good if they actually do manage to halt the early advances by Fire. They might actually be able to pull this one out if they do get to a team fighting stage, because they just have a lot of damage, a lot of scaling as well.
The one thing I kind of worry about, though, when I look at this blue side is going to be that lack of engage.
Yeah.
They don't really have the go buttons that the Fire have. So for the Smurfs, it's going to be a bit of that counter engage game for them to go through. And yes, you can argue a Diana or a Yone can jump in. That's all well and good if you're looking for picks, but not necessarily in a 5v5 team fight. That's going to go quite poorly for them. So they really need to find ways to bait the Fire into taking inopportune team fights and finding ways to turn things around and capitalize upon them. And that is a very tough skill to execute at any level, let alone in a competitive environment. Granted, with your communication, it should be a little bit easier to pull off in theory, but it is still one of the toughest things to do in the game of League of Legends. So when we look at these two teams, I think we are in agreement that early and mid-game earnest is going to be on the fire. If things get late, that's where we could see the Smurfs find a way back. However, first, we got to take ourselves to the Rift, so we're going to be having a quick break while we get ourselves set up. But when we return, we are on to Summoner's Rift for our Week 3 matchup between the Smurfs and the Fire. Back, everybody. A little bit of an extended delay as our first match had a bit of an error, it appears. So the lobby is being remade as we speak. Hopefully we'll be able to get into that game sooner as opposed to later. But this gives us a little bit of extra time to talk about the state of the game. This is something, Haji, that I know you like to follow. You're always up late studying those patch notes. So why not let's discuss some of those in a little bit more detail, starting from, I guess, what you find the most interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously there was a new patch last night, so a lot of new changes come in, and one of the main ones was Sona got just buffed completely across the board. So her passive got buffed, so that she gets extra cooldown off her normal abilities and her ultimate. Her Q got buffed, her W got buffed, and her ult got buffed. So yeah, a lot of buffs there for Sona. But yeah, like patch notes are obviously really important, and yeah. Her getting a buff and then other enchanters also getting nerfs is kind of big for me, because then obviously she's probably going to rise to a bit more prominence in there. And yeah, there's actually a lot of other meta changes as well. Xin Zhao and Diana, who have been two of the best junglers in the game as well, also getting hit quite badly. Not too bad for Xin, but Diana doesn't really like the nerf she got. So yeah, so some pretty big changes, and yeah, obviously that happens every few weeks, and yeah, pretty bad for those champions.
So this is an interesting one then, because Diana, like we're kind of seeing some of these champions being played. Diana in particular in this upcoming match, which needs to be a bit of the carry for the Smurfs, still getting locked in. Is this going to be a serious hindrance to this blue side's chances of victory?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not obviously a complete all-encompassing nerf, but it is hitting 50% of her non-epic monster clearing. So her clear is significantly slower. Sorry. I did actually go into a custom earlier today and kind of tried it and tested how I felt it wasn't. It's a bit of a hit, but she was really strong at clearing her jungle before that. One of the best in the game, really. So it's not like something that is going to kill her off, but it was one of her best strengths. So definitely taking a bit of that power away is a bit of a worry. And she does have some champions that have been coming in that can counter her. Trundle's been one that I've seen a lot, and I've been playing a lot that's really good into her. Obviously, there's some other junglers who are quite good at actually countering her and kind of countering her disengage and that sort of stuff, and can kind of work around her. We don't actually see too many major counter picks to her in pro play. She is a pretty safe blind pick, but yeah, it's definitely something that does hurt her a bit, and in the context of this game can be a bit worrying. And if Frostfire hasn't actually Frosty Bird hasn't actually played it today and doesn't obviously seeing the nerf, then that could be a bit of a worry.
I would have to assume, though, that you're still taking this champion mildly aware of those nerfs and still feeling confident. It is that comfort thing that can still come into play, and sometimes nerfs are a little bit overstated, I feel, when not playing at the tippy top of competitive meta. So it's not as if this Diana is now unplayable by any stretch. As long as that kit remains the same, we're still going to be seeing some pretty solid engages, or perhaps in the stake for the Smurfs in this one, some counter engages if they're able to play the way that they want to approach this. Another champion that we don't see too often in the competitive meta, but is making appearances, of course, going to be that jungle on the other side in the Evelynn. And I want to sort of like dive a bit deeper into this pick in particular, just because it is so unique, but it's always fun to watch for, and more specifically to watch out for. What do you feel that the Smurfs should be doing to play around this more unconventional jungle pick?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's one that you just hate to see in solo queue. I mean, I've played into it before, and it's just really bad. I do play a lot of J4 and Amumu, and you can kind of see that into Evelynn, it's a bit just not very fun. All right, you can't really engage in her. She out farms you. She's really good in team fights. She can pick you off, obviously. If she's good at using the invis, she can just kind of one shot the enemy. So I mean, what you want to do is just kind of get her through her early game. If they're not invading her, if they're not getting her behind, if they're not punishing her kind of squishiness, and she's kind of like Shyvana, where once she gets to 6, it's a bit annoying, obviously, with the invis, but before 6, she's really weak. She can get one shot. So if you're not really punishing that, and you're not really punishing her early game, she can just get through. And if she gets a few kills, it starts getting really out of hand. She's really hard to control in those fights. So definitely a champion that you kind of want to get ahead. They have the Nautilus, obviously, and the Annie in particular. So if they're able to get those CC chains, she's really powerful, particularly with like a set, right? You go top, you place the charm down, you eat, they're just dead. Like pretty much any champion in the game, it's really hard to avoid, and she's really good at that in solo queue in particular, when obviously you don't have communication, which it's a bit easier in a 5 setting. That's probably why you don't see her in pro play, right? She's a very, very strong champion, but in a 5 setting, you can go, Eve's obviously here. We can use the information that we have. We knew she cleared her blue, her gromp, and her wolf. She's obviously topside, you know. You can obviously deduct information where she should be, but in a solo queue game, we have to kind of keep control of everything yourself. It's not really easy to do. So definitely a pick that can be very, very strong, but they probably have to guide her a bit through the early game, particularly in a game where you have a bit more communication.
Yeah, we'll be able to see how well she can either be tracked or guided in this match when we do get back into it. Again, apologies for a bit of the delay. Before we do proceed, again, we are still in the process of remaking the match, and then we'll have to go through the draft again and, of course, go through that wait period. So hopefully you're nice and snug wherever you are. Got yourself a little snack, getting ready, raring to go for this upcoming match between two veterans of the league. And this is the next point that I want to sort of talk about before we go too far into this. St. Thomas More as well as McCauley, again, have been a part of the Chisholm Invitational from the start. And I would have to think that would just give you an inherent advantage, no? The fact that you are familiar with this event, familiar with the competitive environment. These teams should be teams, you know, pretty much mentally prepared for what's about to be coming their way.
Yeah, I mean, experience is definitely a big factor. And I mean, if you look around the league, a lot of the more experienced players and teams typically have a lot of success, and it is definitely a factor. But at the same time, you know, it's not the only thing, right? I mean, you see a lot of teams. I mean, particularly when you're looking at, I think LCK is a good region for this, where a lot of the teams that come into the tournament for like the first time. So I think Griffin would be a really, really good example. A few years ago, playing in the first time for their first time in the league, not having a lot of experience, having a lot of young players, came in and kind of smashed everyone and came second. SKT, who T1 now, sorry, obviously having a lot of experience, now kind of falling off a bit as well. So they've obviously pretty much have some of the most seasoned players with Faker, but still not doing as well. So I guess like it kind of depends on the team. It kind of depends on you know, if that you need that kind of comfort and experience, because some players kind of thrive in that pressure environment, kind of thrive when they're coming into new tournaments. So I guess it just depends on the team, but at the same time, it is an important factor. And if you've obviously been in the tournament before, you know what it takes to win, you know what it takes to see who you're versing and what you're going to do, then it's definitely an advantage. But yeah, some teams, I guess, struggle with it a bit as well.
Yeah, I feel, too, like it's also kind of the culture thing that I was alluding to as well, because there are some new players to the game of League of Legends, let alone to this event in and of itself, like Ginger Ninja. Again, we are highlighting this player, as well as you can almost say Flint Boy and Deadly Cheetah on the Smurf side, are all players who are much newer to the game. So they're still sort of figuring things out, and this perhaps is that first environment, but then you have the more veteran players like Frosty Bird, who you are going to hope be that sort of team leader that they can play around. Meanwhile, for the McCauley side, it is a little bit different. Everyone on that team is a bit more veteran, a bit more seasoned, as it were, when it comes to the game of League of Legends. So we would be expecting them to sort of have the smarter, or at the very least, the more competent decision-making, considering long-standing veterans of this event, long-standing veterans of this game. We're hoping the team synergy is going to be there. They picked a team composition that can definitely play around having strong team synergy. I mean, in my eyes, in my mental, the bar is set very, very high for this red side.
Yeah, definitely, and I guess that was kind of what I was adding on as well with Griffin. I mean, like, it doesn't even matter sometimes if you don't have experience. All that matters is if you're better and you have better teams and you have a better experience in the game, right? So, yeah, definitely a major factor, and yeah, hopefully they can perform and use that experience to their advantage.
Yeah, that is what we will be hopefully able to see as we do plug along. Probably roughly about 5 minutes away from getting ourselves on the Rift. Don't quote me on that entirely, mind you, but if I were to make a guesstimate, that's where I would say we shall be. So as we move along, 5 minutes to sort of freestyle about. We kind of talked about the jungle before. We've hinted at the mid lane. We haven't really talked about the bot lane and where the meta has kind of gone with these most recent changes, because we were talking a bit before with this new patch how some of these Enchantress supports have kind of hit a bit of a nerf. Does that mean a return to the hard engage? Is Lulu kind of dead and gone from the meta before she even realistically got a chance?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting because I think bot can be relatively in a state like top lane or mid lane really at the moment, which is really exciting, where you just have a lot of different champions and it's really down to like matchup and the actual individual draft, individual game state. So I think for that really speaks to me for bot lane, where you know, Kai'Sa can be really good in some spots, but then she can be really bad in some spots. Obviously Ziggs has kind of came in as this like really counter-engagey long-range champion, and there's a lot of champions who can kind of match that as well, like Varus. Yeah, Ezreal really good, I think, still. Even Ashe is then coming in some spots as well. So there's just a lot of champions that can be played different, and even like Kalista, for example, as well. Like she can be really good in some spots, like the Kai'Sa, but then into like the longer range matchups, like the Ziggs, can really struggle. So yeah, definitely a lot of champions, and that goes for support as well. Where these hard engages are being played a lot. We're going to keep seeing them a lot. Obviously the Nautilus in this game as well.
Yep.
But at the same time, we could still see some enchanters popping up, and I really like the Sona buff. I think it's kind of broken in a way, so might see that, you know, put in somewhere eventually. But yeah, Soraka in this game as well hasn't been a champion that I've seen heaps of actually, but I think still has her place, if I'm being honest.
All right, so I'm going to put a little challenge for you again as we're sort of waiting for another 3.5 minutes to go through that spectator delay before we can get to the Rift. I'm going to ask you to build together your ideal team comp. So assuming that bans just went your way and you're able to pick your sort of ideal team composition right now based on sort of these patch notes, what are we looking at? We'll go from top to bottom. So let's go with top lane. Who do we have?
It's very hard because obviously, like, particularly when I draft, I like to see, I guess, like, the other draft and then, like, base my draft off that, right? And you're countering champions. All
It's
that sort of
blind
stuff.
pick, though.
Yeah, okay, we'll go blind pick. For top lane, that's a hard one to start with. I'll start with jungle because I get myself a bit more time to think about top. I'd go with Kindred. I think she does every single thing well. I think she's really, really strong early. I think she has a good clear. She can be very aggressive. She can also play passive. She scales well. She has a very game-breaking ultimate. She's an AD carry, so she's great in team fights. She's really good at 1v1ing, soloing objectives. She's kind of good at everything. The only bad thing is that she's squishy, so if you kind of get mispositioned or, you know, obviously in jungle, that's kind of a big downfall as well because, like, a Xin Zhao can jump on you. But I think she's kind of good at everything. Okay. Bot lane, I'd probably say Ziggs. I think he's just ridiculous. The range he does into so many champions is disgusting. Take down turrets in 2 shots, and he's probably one of the best scaling champions in the game. In support, that's a really tough one, actually. Oh, no.
Who are you putting with the Ziggs?
Yeah, I would have probably said Karma or Lulu before the nerfs as well. Which sucks.
May I recommend a okay? Well,
go.
Why not something like a Senna?
Senna. I'm gonna go Nautilus as a general. I think like he's the best at engage supports. Yeah, it's really boring, isn't it? He's not exactly good at everything. But I still think he's a really, really strong champion. But to be fair, I think in support, it's very, very, very highly dependent on matchup. So I'm not going to really go like this one support that's just the best. I'd argue Kindred and Ziggs are like the best.
All right, well, you've got 1:20 for the solo lanes.
1:20 for the solo lanes. All right. Top lane. Oh, God, this is really tough. I think Camille's really, really good. I'm not sure if she's the best. Been put on the spot. I don't have all the champions in front of me. I'd probably have a better idea, but I'll go Camille. I think Camille's really, really good. I think she does a lot of things correct again. Like she's good scaling, she's good in lane, very good pick, can play a lot of different game compositions. She likes late, she likes scaling. I guess Jax is also one I think is really, really underrated and really good. And counters Camille actually is like Camille's really only counter. And then mid lane, probably go with completely blanket Xerath. I think is disgusting, but no one's touched that one. That's a really, really niche one.
These are all niche picks, I kind of feel like.
Yeah, Xerath's a niche one, but I think he's very, very, very strong, and might see Exile pull it out once or twice during this split.
Ooh, alluding to another tournament around the future being put on together by one of the supporters of this event in Summoner Society. So a quick nod and a shout out to them, but I'm sure you all are much more interested in the match that's starting in about 5 seconds. So we're going to throw it to a break. Hopefully when we come back, we will be on Summoner's Rift. Don't go anywhere. Smurfs versus Fire in just a few moments. Welcome back, everybody. It is finally time to hit the rift. It's been a long time coming, I feel like, Haji. We've laid down all of the foundation and homework already done for these players. So if anyone actually is interested on the patch notes, and if you're coming to watch the game or the VOD of the game and then you realize, wait a minute, there's that delay, you kind of skipped over it, but you want to learn more about the game, I recommend going through that pause, because Haji covered so many points that are very useful, including, who you might want to pick up if you want to climb that solo queue ladder. As it stands, no invades happening level 1, although it should be worth noting, Ginger Ninja kind of hiding out in that bush up top. This is very atypical Garen strats.
Yeah, I mean, if he tries to jump on them with the Q, but yeah, I mean, people joining in, really excited to watch the Chisholm Invitational, and then it's just Hedgie talking about patch notes for 5 hours, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, I'm gonna get into this one here. Both junglers starting on their red buff, which I think is a bit interesting. I think Eve could just do blue into top side.
I noticed something kind of a little unfortunate too for the Smurfs right now, and I'm sure you probably picked it up right now. First of all, a deadly cheetah selecting Soraka, probably the least deadly champion, is not always what you want to do, but usually you need items if you are going to be trying to have that big effect in lane, and unfortunately it looks like Deadly Cheetah, the nerves maybe getting to this player, has omitted to purchase any items to start this game off. Oh no, I missed that as well. Oh, Flash has been used as well. Oh, this is not going well for the Smurfs, unfortunately, to start off this game.
Oh, yeah, I missed a smite and got taken away by Kaiser W. I'm just getting flashbacks right now. It's like it's in my head over and over again. Just seeing me miss it right now, but okay, make a few mistakes in the early game, but hopefully make them up. Tarak and Tristana, I think they're doing a new strat. I'm not sure what it's like, but they're just getting the wave shoved into them on the Darrow.
Yeah, they're not even stepping forward in lane. They're just kind of hiding out, and now they're going to look to farm underneath the tower. Unfortunately, they've given up 2 waves in the process, so by the time they're collecting their first wave, I mean, it's already cannon time, and that is a massive level, experience, and gold advantage actually going over to the Fire in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, they have picked up a win, so clearly they know what they're doing. To some extent, they will try. Yeah, just a few little early blunders. They haven't actually died, so deathless, obviously, 100% KDA, kills participation, insane.
And again, too, when you look at this team composition, like, yes, Raka and Triss are going to be able to scale, and they can become these late game monsters, but they're not who we're going to be relying on early in this game. This is more what we want to see from the Smurfs, and that is Frosty Bird already getting that flash out of Mayteko, I should say, and that's a bit more of the style we're going to be expecting to see from this blue side. That's where most of the action should be if the game is going their way. So yes, there are minor missteps happening on that bot side, and well, maybe a misstep in the mid side as well. It's like Aaron is able to find that gank. Astro Clown in a bit of trouble, does not have flash available. Last auto won't be able to find them. And you also have Frosty Bird, who has roamed down towards that mid lane, looking for a way in. Doesn't connect with the Crescent Blade, but still going to look for this kill. Double buff Evelyn should be able to do some damage here. And you have Echo just above, but Echo is more concerned about keeping Astro Clown away. Nearly wasn't available for the save right there. That's a flash burned by the Evelyn.
All 3 flashes down to Annie, Evelyn, and Seth. So that's really good gank potential and aggressive potential for Frosty Bird here. To try to take advantage of that, is hitting the Scuttlecrab of though, who'll get her level 4, and even more importantly, I mean, Seth doesn't actually have TP in this matchup, he has Ignite, so if he doesn't actually get back to the lane or get a good recall off, he could really get punished hard in the CS department. If he does elect to back at some point, obviously he doesn't have the TP to get straight back to the lane, so that would be a bit of a problem as well, so some really good early pressure placed down by Frosty Bird, and in the bot lane, actually not doing too bad, alright? If you notice the CS deficit, they're level 3, right? They're matching them. They're doing their best.
They're doing their best experience-wise. I do agree. Unfortunately, until they can get some gold income realistically going their way, though, it is going to be hard for them. That 1K differential you see up there at the scoreboard is pretty much entirely coming from the bot lane, and usually bot lane gold differentials equals bot side dragon control, which more likely than not right now is going to be going the Fire's way, and that's just going to be another win con that the team that wanted that early and mid-game pressure is going to be accelerating towards. It's a bit unfortunate that there's not much that the Smurfs can do to counteract that at this stage of the game because of those early missteps. However, if they keep a calm head, they might be able to find a way back in this game, perhaps look for that opponent's misstep. As it stands right now, the current trajectory isn't looking too good for the blue side.
Yeah, not looking fantastic, but they do have, obviously, hopefully those flashes they can take advantage of. If they don't, might be in a bit of trouble there, but do need to look for those plays at some point. But yeah, definitely pretty slow early game, pretty chill across the map. Almost approaching 6 minutes now, and no kills have actually been happening. We have actually had some action. I mean, there's been a few ganks, obviously, in top and mid, so the summoner spells are down for some potential aggression. Yeah, I mean, we're probably expecting a bit more aggression in the champ select than we actually have had, but yeah, maybe
very
a potential
reserved.
gank.
It's a very reserved game, but I am still liking what FrostyBird is doing. You see some wards being dropped in the enemy's jungle before setting up this play up top. Again, no flash available for McCauley. A chance for first blood, perhaps. FrostyBird looking to stay on this set, who does have that showstopper available. And yeah, the damage just not quite there, unfortunately, for the Smurfs. Still a bit too early. We haven't seen a reset out of this Diana just yet, who should be looking to recall about now and get some of those first items in, or collect some honey fruit and perhaps look for another play in mid lane first. This is getting very risky as everyone is hitting level 6 around the Smurf jungler.
Yeah, obviously getting pretty scary with how good those power spikes are for the Diana and the Evelyn as well. Once they do reach that level 6, they have such powerful ultimates to use. But you're seeing one of Evelyn's main strengths right now is just that farming, obviously above Diana in a few camps. And to be fair, Diana has gone for some extra ganks, has gone for some extra plays, but Diana's still just so powerful at clearing her jungle over and over and over again. Getting so many advantages that way, and has done a really good job so far to actually pick up those camps with the advantage she has in that department.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to see that impact the map quite soon. I do imagine that Ocean Drake will be a point of contention for both of these teams. Advantage most likely should be on the Fire side, but if you take a look at the jungle's positioning actually at the moment, FrostyBird a bit closer to the scene, yet still needs to reset themselves. Has been farming for a good long while. It's about to back a K&a-half of gold. As Astrocloud lunges forward, gets stunned, but still wins that trade. Psycheric, though, is around, has ultimate available. Let's see what this Evelyn can do. Gets knocked up, is dropped into that first damage from the pair of them. Too much for Astrocloud to handle. First blood goes to the jungle.
I mean, there's easy setup for Evelyn. Walks into lane, invis, can't up the 0 needed wards, and then she just walks up and hits that charm, and pretty much there it's all over. The Yone just follows up with the easy stun, and they're going to be able to burst down the Yone there. Very good work. And obviously, yeah, it's just really good gang setup, and she has that in all 3 red lanes, so definitely taking advantage of that with that first blood, and now establishing a bit over a 2.5k gold lead, and yeah, maybe looking as she does path into this bot lane, going to pick up that blue, going to get that extra mana, and potentially into a dragon take in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I would like to see that dragon take. I do feel that this red side has had priority over it for a while, so it's sort of like they can take it at their leisure, yet a team that we want to see accelerate the game would be hoping they'd be a bit more proactive in getting it almost immediately after that mid lane play. I think would have been the opportune moment to do so. Granted, they didn't know where FrostyBird was. We have that knowledge, knowing that FrostyBird was not in position to contest that either as well. As now we do see Psycheric looking to pick up that first Drake. Ginger Ninja, nice little sidestep there up top, actually. Still doing their job. More pressure is coming towards that top side. Mayteko could be feeling the brunt of yet another play up top. Flash used prematurely, but it is going to keep him alive, and the dragon does get picked up for our red side.
Yeah, and obviously that is the right idea, at least from this Dino. Actually going to be able to pick up the Herald as well, kind of establishing this point. But yeah, Eve obviously knows Eve's spot. He's taking the dragon and going to punish on the opposite side of the map, getting that Herald almost picking up. Actually got the and yeah, just picking up an objective across the map and trying to make this point about Herald as well a lot. But I feel like if you get the Herald, you get a tower or kind of get a lane a massive advantage, and I think it's worth it against that first dragon. But if you kind of don't use the Herald or only use it to get like just 2 plates or something, then I don't think it's worth it. But it does depend a lot on like what lane it's dropped, on the team compositions and that sort of stuff. But he's just going to drop it straight mid here, and they do have members floating around.
Yeah, I think we are going to be seeing that collapse. Although Echo was spotted out, FrostyBird thinks about an engage, but is still going to be forced to flash to dodge the dredge line from Pumpkin Time. Meanwhile, Psycheric has the play on FrostyBird. This Evelyn is huge.
first already. Meanwhile, further up as well, it looked as if Astro Clown was found, and
That is all 5 members of the Fire just burning through this mid lane and picking themselves up a couple kills.
Yeah, really good collapse there, moving all members actually down to that mid lane, picking up 2 kills themselves. Obviously, Evelyn in a really strong position now with those 2 kills. And yeah, again, that's kind of establishing the point of when you don't really get anything off the Herald, you can actually see Simir and Annie are going to get 2 plates for themselves right here. You don't really get the value of the 2 plates. If you kind of do that, even if there were people to collapse and get kills on them, it probably wouldn't be worth over getting that first Drake, over heading towards the Soul, obviously Soul Point, and just the kind of powerful buffs you can get from those dragons. So in the end, just not really worth with that Herald, and not a bad thing to trade in that situation with Nostra.
yeah, it's interesting to me because I sometimes do like to compare different regions' metas, and you know, one of the regions I've been following quite heavily has been the LJL, which is the Japanese professional scene, and they actually prioritize the Rift Herald over the first dragon. Like they go hard for that Rift Herald, and it's very interesting to me to sort of see like how that sort of changes, because most of the competitive scene does value Dragon over Herald, but like occasionally you'll find sort of odd occurrences where teams don't necessarily do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, Turbo Slayer is going to have to burn Flash to get away from that Tristana rocket jump out of Flint Boy. Will be perfectly fine. But yeah, going back to that previous point though, the difference between Rift Herald in different regions.
Yeah, I mean, like, it does depend a lot on the team composition you're playing as well as that. So, like, if you have more of a scaly comp, kind of with the blue side, because sometimes Herald isn't as valuable because you don't need the early advantage. We're going to have oh my, no flash on that.
No escape for Mayteko either. The damage piles on, and for the Smurfs, they get their first,
Point on the board, as it were. Still sitting about 4K down, and realistically, if you take a look at gold sitting on the map as well, it's even further. Granted, Turbo Slayer is currently sitting on 2.5K. The combined bot lane is sitting on 4K. Flash Timber is going to be enough to secure the kill in the mid lane. Astro Clown will fall down. At some stage, these people have to go back and buy. We see that already from Turbo Slayer has purchased. And now, well, Echo is the one sitting on a lot of gold for the Fire. And it might not matter if they found themselves Frosty Bird under tower as well. But I'm still worried. Flint Boy and Deadly Cheetah, we are nearly 13 minutes in this game. They have yet to back and purchase items. And for Deadly Cheetah, they didn't even purchase items at the start of the game.
Look, he's doing his best, alright? They're trying.
Now it's time to purchase. Here we go. They're backing.
Yeah, alright, there you go. They're done. They've got the backup. But yeah, I mean, you can see with Evelyn as well. This is one of the things I mentioned with her in the show. When she does get 1 or 2 kills, or just a bit of an advantage, it's so easy for her to turn it into more kills. She's just so damaging. She does so much burst. Obviously, the kills makes it so easy to catch out members like this Diana here, potentially, and just get picks and keep getting advantages, and just makes it really, really easy. It's kind of like a, even a Xin Zhao, but with invis. You have that insane burst. You have the ability to go across the map and yeah, she just has a lot of strengths. And when she's overrunning her enemy like this and getting good advantages, then she is just in a really, really strong spot. But really, really well set up. Has that first dragon, second dragon coming up in just a few short seconds. Potentially just looking to take it. They have priority in pretty much every lane.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. They have priority in every lane, and in particular, they have massive priority in the lanes that are going to matter the most as we get later into this game, the mid and the bot side. We are seeing moments when the Smurfs do try to fight back in this match. However, it's going to be a tough ask. You've got Yone, who does like to snowball a bit, still yet to complete that first item against like the Echo, but more importantly against this Evelyn jungle who has been mid quite a few times and has a significant damage advantage there. Interesting though to see the Night Harvester picked up first, which, it's going to be scary to deal with. And then, yeah, that bot lane differential right now, looking at nearly 5.5 gold secured for Turbo Slayer compared to the just under 3K from Flint Point, you are going to feel that that is a complete item. And now we sort of see that complete item in effect as once again the Fire bursts straight through that mid lane. They don't lose a member despite diving under the tower. They're now up 7-1, so viva la Brazil! The Fire going a little international with this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like me in a solo queue game right now. I'm 5-0 on my jungler. I'm doing really well in OPDOG. Keep me 5th on the team, and you know, gives my support the MVP. So yeah, pretty good sides here on the Evelyn, but doing very well to get this engaged. And yeah, continuing with that Mountain Dragon as well. Could actually pick up the second Rift Tower pretty easily if they actually walk over to it. Can actually just probably clear your entire jungle up to the Krugs and potentially look for it, or just look for a gank or some sort of opportunity. Doesn't need to do anything too aggressive right now with the advantage they have, and a big one at that. They have a 7k. Continuing to trade back and forth, probably the gank opportunity.
Okay. Don't typically see the Showstopper as the initiating tool. That said, the Dredge Light from Pumpkin Time is going to be able to follow it up, and Ginger Ninja is going to be forced to flash. Arguably could have maybe held on to that one, however, is looking to protect that KDA, and why not? Currently sitting with the best KDA on the team,
not just in the stats, so maybe, you know, the playing against bots isn't a complete excuse for it all. I also do like how the Smurfs are picking up that Rift Herald out of the jungle, although it might be fighting off a bit more than they can chew, because here comes Turbo Slayer, who should be able, realistically, just one solid shot after trying to make the counterplay, but not going to come through for them, and with the ult being dropped, Astro Cloud's going to try to run away, but here comes Psycheric, who has just been that thorn in the Clown side, picking up the 6th kill of their own game. 9-1 lead as we approach that 10k mark.
Yeah, is this going to start the Rift Herald as well, as I said earlier, but yeah, just catching the Diner out there. If she actually got her ult off, that might have been able to do something there, might have been able to take down the Samira, but in the end, just not able to get the combo off as well as she could, sadly, but yeah, just at least trying to put some pressure on the top side, pushing pressure on the Rift Herald if they had actually picked up that kill, maybe able to take that objective in the end, but
I'm sorry, there's just something inherently awesome about an Annie just willing to walk under tower, drop inhibitors, and walk away. Yeah. Not even doing damage, it doesn't matter. This is what we're doing. And while they're going back in it again, Turbo Slayer finds one, Echo finds the second. Bossy is going to get a bit of revenge. Meanwhile, back up top, though, Ginger Ninja's perfect KDA is in a lot of trouble right now, as it will be pulled away from them by Psycheric, who else 7-0-1 on the game. Jets left, right, and center. Astro Clown's going to try to go 1v1 against Turbo Slayer. Feels like the Yone in most of my solo queue games, and is actually possibly winning this one until the ultimates come out, and Turbo Slayer looking to keep pace with their junglers, only 1 kill behind.
Yeah, one with that is definitely the Yone in your solo queue games there, getting solo killed by that Samira in the bot lane. They do have the Rift Herald available, and actually going to elect to use it top. I thought they might, just to get that out of the turret there, but gonna back in the ends, and yeah, just building up that gold lead even more, over 10k now, actually at 12k, and a really strong advantage across the board, and just doing a really good job to force pressure to keep making these picks. Shoshana and Soraka, man, they're playing that turtle, right? They're trying to scale up. They're just sitting up the turret.
You know what? They're going out there, and I think this has been a confidence. If I'm gonna put it on one issue, and the one thing that, like, I think nerves and confidence are the two things that may have gotten to the blue side a bit harsher than we were necessarily predicting would be the case. The fact that you're looking to give up your first couple waves just to stay safe underneath the tower, like, I understand, yeah, you're keeping yourself safe in that situation, but you're also giving your opponent so much for free, even just by being in the lane. They will have to respect your presence. They will have to play around you in some facet. In that regard, it's why it's so much better to step forward in the future. Perhaps that's something that they can pick up on as they move forward in this tournament, because right now, Rift Herald just got dropped in the mid lane. Inhibitors are under fire. I don't think we're going to see the Dancing Herald necessarily this game, but we are going to be seeing a base broken open before that 20-minute mark.
Actually, potentially go for them. They don't have set TP. Look at the end, but they are getting some recalls off now.
Oh, yeah, no, this is actually getting a lot closer than we may have initially thought. Shelly does go down, but they find yet another pick. Ginger Ninja's just going to sit in that front line and try to whittle away at Pumpkin Time. One more auto could do it, but is unable to chase the Nautilus down. 2 more kills going over to Turbo Slayer, who has tied things up with Psycheric, and with only 1 tower remaining, Turbo Slayer saying, you know what, I'll do it myself, and perhaps fighting off a bit more than they can shoot. Dodges the first one, finds the pick on the flip point, finds the second ult as well, finds the second kill. It's a triple to possibly end the game. Turbo Slayer has had enough of this game of Summoner's Rift. The GGs get dropped, and that
probably is going to do it. Astro Clown is going to try to make that heroic shake, but we've seen this 1v1 before, Hedgie.
Yeah.
We know how it goes. Astro Clown is actually just going to back away, try to stop the minions, but Turbo Slayer saying, okay, I'll work on the Nexus instead. Ginger Ninja is back up. Turbo Slayer is still frizzling away. Now gets caught up high in the air. The healing keeps them fully healed. Slick Boy steps forward and then gets sent back. One or two more autos will end this Nexus. It's a triple kill for Turbo Slayer, who ties the kill count back up. However, Turbo Slayer was the one who wanted to end this game, and well, end it emphatically. They did. Congratulations to McCauley. They moved to 2-1 on the season.
All right. Evelyn and Sivnir are combining for 22 of their 23 kills. I'm gonna have to give it to support diff. Definitely Pumpkin Time putting in the.
Pumpkin Time did well. I think we did see some roams.
Yeah.
We did see some roams.
Yeah, it was pretty good. But yeah, in the end, just being a bit too strong. And you know what? I'm gonna have to give the MVP to Turbo Slayer just for the end there. That was pretty cool. Kind of just like 1v7'd.
We were gonna have a proper debate if you didn't choose Turbo Slayer right there, just for that last play alone. Because when the rest of the team is thinking, no, we need to reset, we need to play this methodically, Turbo Slayer was like, I want to be our most valuable player. I just want to end this game myself, and end the game themselves. He did.
Yeah, it was pretty insane. Kind of just like 1v3 to 1v1 to 1v14 apparently. But very, very good end there. And yeah, so some really good early pressure. Did utilize the Evelyn very well as well to get some early kills and use the CC. They do have in those lanes, obviously, the Set and the Annie. Really, really well setting up for that Eve. Just took all the objectives, took control of the map in the jungle, and yeah, just snowballed that really, really hard.
Yeah, it was a big snowball, and well, again, like a fire, it just burned right on through the side of the Thomas Smurfs. I've made that same one too many times. You're right. We're gonna stop that right now and just give our congratulations to the McCauley Fire side, our condolences as well as our appreciation though for the St. Thomas More Smurfs who have shown up again, not only just for this game but each and every Chisholm Invitational, like the McCauley Fire. Again, their continued support for this event is amazing, and it's not just these teams. It's not even just all the teams. We also have our wonderful sponsors as well. A huge thank you to Lenovo Legion for helping out this event in every way, shape, and form that they can, as well as Torrance University for going to be hosting our grand final, and of course Summoner Society for helping provide some prize pool to the top 4 finishers in this series. Yeah,
definitely. Obviously, big thanks to the sponsors.
Yeah, big thank you to all of them. Big thank you for everyone tuning in. A huge thank you to Chisholm as well for, again, continuing to put this stream on, even considering, the current state of affairs here in Brisbane and Queensland itself. However, on that note, we are going to have to sign off for tonight. Until next week, everybody, make sure to follow, make sure to tune in once again, because there's only 2 weeks of regular season of group stage left. So until then, see you all out there on the Rift.
Legion by Lenovo.